Alrighty, and we're on. So my guest today is Tim Fung, co-founder and CEO of Airtasker. So I guess Tim and I, well, how long have we even known each other?
Oh, 15 years probably.
More than,
Yeah, 15 maybe. Yeah, probably about 15 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Tim was at the same uni as one of my high school mates. And I guess, as friends of friends, we did hang out quite a bit and had a common interest in cars. Yeah.
Yep. I think you used them more aggressively than I did, but yeah, we both like cars. I guess you went a bit more crazy with them, with how you drove them.
I'll share some stories on that, as we go through. But I guess Tim. So we're sitting here in Tim's I guess office. Well, it's like this.
Airtasker's office. Yep.
Yeah, in Airtasker's office, and we're in the loft. The board. Is this a boardroom?
Yes, all our rooms here are named after parts of your house. So, we've got the loft, the cubby house, the den, the nook. They're all just designed to make you feel a little bit like you're at home.
Okay. And we'll get to talking about Airtasker. Let's go back a little bit and let's talk about where did you grow up?
So I am Australian-born Chinese, born in. So I grew up in St Ives on the North Shore. So I had a really nice upbringing, I guess. If anything, it was just a bit boring.
Yep.
There's not much goes on in St Ives, and the average age is probably 60 or something of the people there, and it's really far away from the city.
Yep.
Really nice, middle class upbringing.
So the house that you grew up in. Was that the same house until basically you moved out, or?
Yeah, so I think my family, my mum's family, she's third generation Australian Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
They grew up around the Flemington, Strathfield area, which I think a lot of Australian Chinese lived around there.
Yep.
But then I think they moved to Beacon Hill, like on the Northern Beaches for a while. But just before I was born, they sort of built their main home in St Ives, like built a house from scratch. Yeah. And they still live there now.
Yep.
And I lived there from age 0 to in my early 20s.
Okay. And do you have any like fond memories of growing up in that house? Like, is there anything that springs to mind when I always think about when you go to somewhere, there's a particular smell, right? And that smell will bring up some of those memories. Like when you go visit your parents now, is there something that you're always fond about, or some fond memory that pops to mind?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like growing up near the bush was just really amazing. Like, I got to climb on the rocks, go into the bush, catch yabbies in the creek, so it was really,
There's
really
yabbies
nice.
in those creeks?
Yeah, there was. So it's really, really beautiful.
Okay.
Actually, I kind of think now when I look back at it, my parents kind of let me go pretty feral, pretty wild. And, some of the rocks that we were climbing, they're probably 4 or 5 meter high with the big drop below it.
Yep.
It's kind of dangerous
stuff,
but it was just awesome as a kid, exploring and so I got really good memories of that. We had a dog, a poodle when we were growing up, so I got memories around that. She's buried under a tree at the house. I had really privileged to have the childhood that I had.
And so just talking on dogs, like we had a dog as well when I was a kid. And did you guys get the dog? Like, was the dog already there when? Or you
so we got Snazzy. That was our little black poodle. When I was probably 5 or 6 when we got her. And really thankful. She had a good long life. I think she lived to about 14, 15 years.
Wow.
She was there my whole life.
Yep.
I wasn't the owner of the dog, so she probably didn't like me that much. And actually, we let her run feral too. Like, she was an outdoor dog, which is kind of strange for a poodle.
Yep.
But we actually got reports from people around the suburb that she would walk quite far away from our house, walk up the road, a kilometre away, and then just find her way back home.
That's good. At least she found her way back home.
No, I mean, poodles are super, super smart dogs.
Okay.
But I think my parents are actually quite trusting in that regard, because I've got a dog now, and I don't let it out of my sight, really. Like, he lives inside, he sleeps on our bed, and he's never put into danger.
Yeah.
So, bit of a different style.
It was I'm just thinking back on our dog. So we got tricked. So I think it was at Parkley Markets or something, and I think it was with some of my aunties from overseas were here or something like that as well, maybe. And then, you know, we were leaving the markets, and then there was a family giving away dogs, right? And I think they told my mum it was a Labrador cross something, right? And so we get this little black dog, and I still remember he puked like 2 or 3 times in the car on the way home. Like a little dog puked, stunk, right? and it was just like, but you know, you felt sorry for the little puppy because he's car sick or whatever. And then as he grew, his nose got longer, his ears got pointier, and then, you know, before we knew it, we had this bloody German Shepherd.
Right. Okay.
So much for Labrador, right?
Yeah.
Like it was meant to be like a black Labrador or something like that, and ended up being a German Shepherd. And we called him Breaker because he used to break everything, like his bowls and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, also quite a smart dog. Like I remember we used to have like a sunroom at the back of our house. And he got smart enough that he would jump up and use his nose to open the door to get into the sunroom. So
Right.
so he could let himself in and out of that area of the house. But anyway, yeah, it was just one of those things that, you know, when you think back on it, and you know, when I think about some of those memories, like I can actually smell like what that wet dog smell.
Don't they say that like smell is something that really sticks to your memories?
Yeah.
Like, like you'll remember a smell like of a bakery or an ice cream or
Yep.
you know, even the mothballs. You know, I think
Yep.
a lot of Chinese houses have like mothballs,
Yeah.
but like that will really invoke memories.
Yep.
Whereas like vision, I think, is like harder to recall.
Especially when we're so bombarded with visuals.
Yeah.
You know, nowadays, especially looking at phones and screens and all that sort of stuff, like everything sort of, you know, I think it's sort of maybe because the what we see is so vibrant that, you know, when you're looking around just at normal things, it sort of loses its, you know, its texture. Versus, you know, I think, you know, with our sense of smell, we always detect, you know, drastic changes in smells, right? Like if you go from somewhere that doesn't have a smell and then you go into like a shopping mall, there's this particular smell to that. Versus going like the hospital or dentist.
I always think about, you know, those companies or those stores that have like their
signature smell.
Yeah,
Subway,
like, you know,
KFC.
Yeah. Or I was thinking more like Abercrombie and Fitch. You know,
Oh,
like
do
they
they?
have.
Okay.
It's really strong. Like, and it kind of makes you feel like going out and partying or like clubbing or something, which I think is like really
It's
intentional.
engineered, right? Like it has to be engineered. Like,
Yeah,
it's just one of
totally.
those
Like they
things that
kind of like make you
force you into
feel, you know, like you want to go out and meet people and stuff, and then you want to buy clothes.
Yeah.
It makes total sense.
now I've got to
Like,
dress up.
no, it probably works. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think they're doing that well now, but
No,
but it's definitely a good branding thing.
Yep. Okay. And then, so school-wise, which school did you go to?
So I went public school all the way.
All the
Went
way.
to St Ives North.
Yep.
From kindergarten to year 4.
Yep.
And then I went to Artarmon Public School,
Okay.
which is 6 train stations downwards towards the city.
And what was the reason for the change?
So there's an opportunity class at
Yep.
Artarmon, so I went to that, which was really good.
Yep,
Both
smart
my
kid.
sisters went there. Yeah, thanks, mate. Both my sisters went there. So I don't know, maybe they have a thing, the family line or something.
The legacy?
They
I
let
can
you
tell
in
I can
easier.
tell you right now that doesn't work because my brother went to James Roos and
Okay.
I didn't get in.
Okay. But, they still got to have some standards. And then North Sydney Boys for high school.
Yep.
So public school all the way. It was really good.
Okay. And do you have any was there any do you have any I guess memories in terms of public school, like primary school, I guess, that sort of stand out, that maybe shaped you a little bit?
Oh, super fond
Personality-wise?
memories. You know, like whenever I think back, like I always I've moved to the eastern suburbs now, which is a bit closer to the city and probably a bit more like dense.
Yep.
Community
Population-wise,
and
yep.
and just a bit more action, I
Yep.
guess, from that perspective. But I do look back on how privileged I was, how blessed I was to be able to grow up on the North Shore. I I remember kind of going to all these like birthday parties on the weekend.
Yep.
Now we're old enough to be having a lot of our friends have kids who are
Yep.
going to these birthday
Birthday
parties
parties.
now, but I remember going to them, and I guess I kind of took it for granted back then that all these people had these massive backyards,
Yep.
amazing trees that you could climb and all that. And I just think back on those days
Yep.
with really, really fond memories.
Yep.
And it's really interesting now because, we're trying to buy a house or, make our own way through life. And
Yep.
I was just thinking about, geez, these people, they must have done pretty well for themselves to
Yeah.
have the houses and stuff. But I did go to public schools all the way through as well. So got a
Yep.
bit of a balanced
Balance mix.
view of that. Yeah.
Yep. And then, so I guess in terms of nationality wise, at primary school, was it a balanced mix, or was it like more Anglo, more Asian, more
predominantly Anglo? I
predominantly
think a couple of there are a couple of Asian people, I guess, at the school, but it'd be like 85%, 90% Anglo. Being in St Ives, there's a few Jewish as well. So one of my good friends going through high school and in primary school was was South African Jewish. So there's a good mix, but certainly predominantly Anglo.
Yep. Yeah. And like, was there ever a point where when you realised that hey, I'm Asian? Like, did that ever happen to? Would that happen to you in primary school, or was that more in a high school thing?
No, definitely in primary school. Like, I knew that I was slightly different, I guess.
Yep.
I guess some different, values. I guess like my mum was obsessed. I guess I didn't necessarily put it down to an Asian background or anything, but. Coincidentally, I suppose my mum was like obsessed with getting me to be really good at my times tables.
Yeah,
really
that's
young.
typical,
So
right?
so I remember in primary school they would do like a times table test, and I just get 100% every time. It's like because I just know the times tables,
up to 12,
and they'd be like, go as fast. Like they'd go, we're going to speed it up today. It's like. But I just know, if it's 11:11s, I know it's 121. I guess some small differences like that. We probably, there was a lot of emphasis on study, but nothing compared to what kids are doing these days. But no, other than that, like I guess all my friends were just regular Aussie kids, and I'm fourth generation Australian on my mum's side, so I'm pretty Aussie myself.
Okay, fair enough. All right, and then so going into high school, do you remember much about that transition? Was there much of a change there, or?
So it was really interesting because a lot of my friends from St Ives ended up going to North Sydney Boys. So there's probably 5 or 6 people that I knew from my 0 to 4 year 4 age going into North Sydney Boys, and then also a bunch of the guys from Artarmon Public School ended up going there as well. So. Yeah, it was really quite a nice transition. I was like hooking up with old friends again, and a couple of my existing friends were going across. Although a lot of the people from Artarmon ended up going to private schools. But yeah, it was a pretty easy transition. I really enjoyed like going into it. I remember there's some great memories around. There was always rumors that you're in year 7, you're going to get beaten up, you're going to get bullied and taunted and stuff. But it turned out our grade was quite special. We ended up having a lot of interesting characters in our grade who all went off and did different pursuits. But basically, we turned out to be a bit of a naughty grade at North Sydney Boys, and a bit of a blip on the educational performance. In the HSC, I think we did not perform well compared to like other years at North Sydney Boys. But it was great. I remember we had so we used to have this area at the school called the Year 7 Lawns, and it's basically designed so that the Year 7 kids could hang out somewhere and not kind of get beaten up or,
So there was teacher supervision and...
Yeah, just generally it was like,
right?
you can't be... if you're not in Year 7, you don't go to that area for lunch and stuff. But then I remember the Year 8 kids just started throwing, various projectiles at the lawns and trying to hit us. But we actually rallied sort of Braveheart style on the lawn. And I remember, 100 kids... and we would like spend a lot of time and effort collecting like buckets of lemons, filling up bottles of water and stuff like that to retaliate against these kids who were older than us. And I thought that was what every year did. But then I kind of found out that, like our grade was quite quite naughty. And the usual thing was you just copped it from the other kids. So,
I think that was the same, like, in our high school. So, Ivan and I went to Borkham Hills, and like our grade, we copped it quite a bit. Like when I think back on it, like I've got into this ridiculous fight, right? Where there was a guy in the grade above, and something happened, and like a tennis ball from our court went down to where they sit, and then they didn't want to give the ball back, and then I think Age and him got in, like we're like in a sort of altercation or whatever, and then Ivan went and punched the guy or something like that. And then next thing you know, the next Wednesday sport afternoon, like half the school's gathered in the Oval, and we're in a fight.
Oh, geez.
So Ivan and the other guy were going at it, and then Ivan got winded. So that was the end of his fight, and then
should be laughing.
we laughed, but then then all these other fights broke out, and then I remember like because there was so many other grades there, and it was just like our grade that was just getting picked on. It was just like bullshit, right? And so then I think I grabbed stupidly, right? I grabbed this year 11 guy and I started punching him in the head, and then him and all his mates started jumping on me, and then Heng, another guy in our grade, He jumped in to try and help me and started pulling people off, and then Heng's like grabbed me and I'm just swinging, right? And I turn around and I'm like, oh shit, it's Heng, and I'm like pulling my arm back, and so like I pillow fisted him, but I couldn't stop myself. Like I still hit him, but I just pillow fisted him.
Aren't you like a kung fu expert?
Not back then.
Oh right, okay.
Right, we're talking in we were what, year 8, right? So year 8 you'd be like 12 maybe. 13,
yeah, but you hadn't
right?
you been you
been
training?
But
yeah,
like it doesn't it. When you think about it this way, how much smaller were you when you're in year 7 versus how much bigger were you?
I don't know. I've always been small relative to my peers.
All right. Well,
I just remember. I remember a few. Oh, it's probably 10 years ago now. But I remember kicking you in the leg. Like you invited me to kick you in the leg, and I remember kicking you in the leg and going, "Gee, that's pretty hard."
Yeah.
Like as in that did actually hurt me.
Your foot. Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, projecting back, if you were out there swinging punches at people, wouldn't you have caused a bit of damage?
Oh no, it was just reckless abandonment, right? Like it was just basically I was literally head down, like almost like in The Simpsons, where you got the flailing arms.
Yeah,
yeah. I was probably more like that
that's
style.
That's Lisa's move versus Bart's.
Yeah, Bart's kicking. Yeah, so it was probably more akin to that. I remember that I had the guy's shirt in one hand, and I was just trying to wail on him with the other hand. So there was zero technique. Probably zero power. Like I probably did no damage.
Well, that's a good thing. But I think, get a little bit of your anger out without actually hurting people.
Yeah. But look, funnily enough, like after that, like things sort of settled down for our grade. Like there wasn't really too much more after that big sort of blow up.
It's interesting. Yeah. In our school, we definitely had some people who kind of took a different path.
Yeah.
And sort of, yeah, it was interesting to see. It's pretty profound actually when you think back to when you're 12 years old.
Yep.
Going into high school, and everyone's just kind of similar. They're all just kids going along their way, and like seeing the different paths people took from there. It was pretty. Some people, some really amazing journeys. Some people had much too short journeys, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty profound though when you think about it, because you're all just there thinking that life had just kind of started.
Yeah, that's right.
And I guess now, we've gone through a lot of life.
Yeah,
and it's not kind of just started anymore.
No, you're on the journey, right? Like if I was to say, Tim, back then, if somebody asked you, Tim, what do you want to be when you grow up? What would your answer have been back then?
So I think back then I used to say lawyer, and it was on a very, high level idea of basically I like talking a lot and arguing with people a lot, which is probably a terrible reason to become a lawyer. But that's what I would have said back then. Although I did look back on my year 12 handbook, and I did have something in there saying I really, really, really want to be successful. I don't know how, but I just want to
be successful.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I guess I thought I was less ambitious back then, but I must have still been.
Had the ambition.
Kind of wanting to do something big back then. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like when I think back on, if you want, well, I guess when I was young, like say in primary school, I probably thought that I wanted to. So I was really into. So I think Aggro's Cartoon Connection used to be on. Right?
You wanted to be aggro?
No, I didn't want to be aggro, but there was a cartoon which was called Robotech. And
was that like a Japanese thing?
That's the Japanese one.
Yeah,
right?
but they dubbed
it in English, right? And so then they showed it on Aggros, and basically it was about it's basically almost like Transformers. Like these fighter pilots could fly planes that would convert into huge robot things that would.
I'm still waiting for what you wanted to be.
Well, I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be like one of them.
Oh, okay, right. But not with a cool suit that turns into a
of course
person.
Okay, as a primary school.
Okay,
kid,
so you basically had no idea how the world worked.
No, that's right. So as a primary school kid, that to me was awesome, right?
Of course that's awesome. That's still awesome. If flying robot men existed, I'd love to be one of those.
Exactly. So that's if you asked me back then, I probably would have said I wanted to be something like a pilot or something. And then I think when I was in high school, I watched that movie Gattaca, the Ethan Hawke movie, and I really liked that movie. Like that, to me, even today, is still one of my favorite movies, just because I think the messaging in that movie, you know, like he was a guy that got dealt a shit hand in life. And
he's a beta or something, right? Like he's a second class citizen.
They called him an invalid.
Yeah.
So basically, you know, I think, you know, it's set in a future where, you know, everybody was making babies through test tubes, and so the selection process was basically, you know, they tested everything. They had a readout of what your life was based on your DNA before you're even born.
Yeah.
And so he was a love child. So basically, his parents made him the traditional way. So there was no control over whether he got the best of their traits or not. And then his younger brother, they genetically modified, right? And then, just basically like, you know, then he gets in contact with Jude Law's character. And I'm sorry, massive spoiler alert, but if you haven't seen it, the movie came out in like the 1990s. So
too late.
Too late, right? So Jude Law's character basically had all the genetic gifts, right? He was meant to be the best, right? And then I think what happened was he was a swimmer in the Olympics or something like that, and he got a silver medal. And when he was touted to be everything, like he was meant to be the best swimmer in the world, blah, 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 had the genetics to get there, but only got silver. And was so depressed he got hit by a car or something like that, or wanted to end his life, and instead he became a paraplegic. And so then basically he's using his, you know, his genetics, so giving him, you know, fingerprint skins and things like that, and contacts, and helping him like for his eyes and things like that, to have him pass as being his genetic makeup, right? And so then, you know, through that, then Ethan Hawke's character gets into, I guess, the equivalent of NASA, and wants to go to space, right? And, you know, all throughout the movie, like, you know, it's sort of like a bit of a thriller, because, you know, his actual younger brother is a detective, and he's trying to actually, you know, catch him out, because there was some murders that had happened and all these sorts of things that had happened. And, you know, I guess in the end, he, through sheer determination and hard work, he achieves his goal. Right. And then you don't even know at the end of the movie where he actually survived, you know, the flight into space, because he's like, you know, he's closing his eyes and away he goes. The guy could be dead, right? But he achieved his goal, right? He got off the planet. Like, that was all he wanted to achieve. And I think, you know, for me, that resonated from the perspective of if there's something that you truly want to achieve, you won't accept excuses. You won't accept setbacks. You'll find a way to make it work. Right. And then I always talk about, you know, what flipped my mentality in high school. So I didn't give a shit about academics until probably year 11, right?
Are you allowed to swear on the Apple podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Right on.
So
Good to know.
We're sweet. This is the wild, wild west. Like, I try not to get carried away, because I'm a mechanic background, and once I start, like, it's just F-bomb here, F-bomb there. So I really try and like pare it back. Right on. But I'd prefer to be, you know, honest, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So like, what flipped the script for me was when I got to year 11, you know, what I realized, because like my mum was like yours, you know, very focused on academics, and she used to send me to a lot of classes. And so, you know, throughout most of my primary school life, like, it was, you know, you go to school, then after school you either went to do piano or language classes or tutoring and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, by year 11, like, you sort of become enough of your own person that you've got to make a decision for yourself.
Yeah.
And so I looked back at that, and I gone, you know, my grades were down, and I was like, okay, but it's not, I don't think it's because I'm stupid. It's all about application, right? Because if I could be, you know, when I was 10 or 8 or 7 or whatever, you don't question whatever your parents tell you to do. You just do it. So the simple thing was that I could do so many different things, and I'd be fine, right? So now if I just apply that focus, and I can still do whatever I want. And I guess it still applies to me now. Like, I try and do as many things as humanly possible. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm, you know, a lot of people say jack of all trades, master of none. But I think that's a skill set in itself.
Yeah, I remember in uni meeting you, and I think you were working full-time and doing uni full-time.
Yep.
And I was like, so you're a mechanic,
but
you're also doing a law degree.
Yeah.
And I was like, that must have been super intense.
Yeah. Like, it was just one of those things, though. So I had other motivations as well. Then, like, my mum wasn't well mentally back then. So, you know, I guess my mindset in terms of going to the doing the mechanic thing was because I was looking for work at the time, and I thought it was a foot in the door to go to Toyota. And then like one of the things that actually happened to me whilst I was working doing my apprenticeship was that because I was before I got my apprenticeship, I was doing a lot of temp work, so paralegal style temp work. And then the temping agency actually offered me a job to temp at Mallison's. And at the time I was already,
That's a super fancy firm, right?
It's top tier.
Tier 1, yeah.
Yeah. And so when I first got told about it, when they first asked me, I said yes, right? And I didn't really think things through. And then I started to think about things, and I go, well, hang on. I'm already doing my apprenticeship. I don't have annual leave to go and do this other role. And then if I do this other role, like there could be an opportunity there to obviously get, a greater portion of work. So, and then I was thinking, oh shit, well, what do I really want to do? And so then, I ended up having to turn around to the recruiting agency and say, hey, about that role, I can't do it. And she was pissed.
Lord. Oh, okay.
Pissed, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely pissed. And I don't blame her. I'd be pissed too if you got told that, somebody's going to do this contract or whatever, and then they turn around that they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And most people would probably think, if you really want to be in the legal field, I was stupid to make that decision, right? But for me, it was like I didn't see that as being the career that I wanted. So I said to her, look, I'm not going to take it. I didn't think it through because obviously I got overexcited because it's Mallison's, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, well, yeah, you realize you don't take this opportunity, you may never get another one like this. And I was like, oh, well.
Way to sell the fear.
Yeah. Right? So door shut on that, and I just gave up. Like, I still finished my law degree, but I gave up on wanting to practice from that perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so for you, academically, like when you got to year 11 and 12, like were you switched on, or where was your headspace at?
So I went through waves of basically being, I remember in very early primary school, I was super conscientious and, getting awards and stuff like that. I went a bit naughty from probably year 3 to year 7 or 8.
Yep.
I was a bit of a rebel. Nothing super naughty, but just, didn't want to study and all that kind of thing. And then I just had I remember in the second semester of year 8, because I basically got smashed in the first semester of year 8. I remember I came last in science or something, and my mum just absolutely crushed me.
Yeah.
And so I started putting in a bit of effort, and I managed to turn it right around in year 8, and so I kind of peaked probably around year 10 or 11.
Okay.
But I was on a good trajectory, and I ended up doing pretty well, in the school. Like I said, we had a dud year, but I did well in my grade uni-wise. I probably wasn't my peak though in year 10 or 11 in terms of effort.
Yeah.
I guess it was kind of related to a time when I just started being able to shut things out. I realized that was a bit of a skill, was I didn't mind being a bit more disciplined.
Yep.
If we'd go study at the library, a few of us would go together.
Yep.
I could kind of sit down and do an exam, a practice exam, and just say, I'm just going to do this exam as if it's real.
Yep.
So sit down 3-4 hours, write an essay, and just shut everything out.
Yep.
Whereas I kind of noticed other people, a girl had come up and say, hey, you want to go and take a walk or something? And then at every opportunity they were gone. But I think, and then after high school, in uni, I kind of burnt out a bit in the HSC, and I got into the course that I wanted to do. But I kind of said, I'm never going to push myself that hard in terms of study again. And so, I just sort of got through university, but I didn't aim for the higher distinctions and all that. I just got the piece of paper.
So, okay. So let's go back to, you did commerce, right?
I did commerce, but I did marketing, tourism and hospitality management. So it was a double degree.
Double degree. Yep.
Yeah. A kind of unique one.
And so did you already know that that's what you wanted to do at the end of high school?
I had absolutely no idea.
Okay.
So I finished, and looking back on it, it was totally irresponsible. Basically, I got my UAI and I was like, I can do, pretty much whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
And then I basically, looked through the UAC handbook back then, and I think I was initially going to do industrial design.
Okay.
Which I think is good that I probably didn't do that because I don't think I would have been like massively suited to it.
Yep.
But this degree that I ended up doing was kind of a unique degree, which was, it had this kind of secondary major of doing hospitality management.
Yep.
And so you were meant to have done an interview, like in August of the previous year or something.
Okay.
Like it was kind of like based on an interview plus a UAI.
Yep.
And it turned out to be a bit of a loophole because I think you could have gotten into this which was effectively a commerce degree.
Yep.
But you could have gotten into it with 80 something UAI.
Okay.
Even though a commerce degree was sort of 90 something UAI.
Yep.
But yeah, they ended up waiving the interview thing for me, which is good. And I did it. And yeah, it was pretty cool. Like it was kind of like uni doing commerce marketing, but then separately you'd go to like a hospitality school and do silver service and wine tasting and all this kind of stuff, which was pretty fun.
And did your parents have any sort of expectation in terms of what they wanted you to do?
Well, I think they were happy because it was a commerce degree.
Okay.
It was kind of either business, law, or medicine.
Yep.
that's what they would have been happy with.
The typical Asian
Yeah,
ones.
But they were very, they were pretty chill. Like they never kind of forced me to do anything.
Yep.
But yeah, deep down, I'm sure they would have been not happy if I hadn't done one of those. Three.
Yeah, one of the major ones.
Yeah.
So like I think when I was working out what I wanted to do, so I think for me, I already had decided that I wanted to do engineering of some sort.
Yep.
So even like, my electives in year 12, was basically 3-unit English, 4-unit maths, physics and engineering science. So that was my 11 units or whatever. And then, when I got my marks, then, I just managed to get enough so that I could go to UTS and do engineering and law. Yeah. So it was just like a why not?
What kind of engineering did you do?
So okay, here's an interesting story. So I guess it started out as meant to be engineering and law, and it was like a 5.5 year course, right? And my brother, when he went to UTS as well, he did engineering. I think his major was like computer systems, and then he also did an arts degree in international studies. So, but he spent like 7 years at uni, like, because by the end he was like, just part time, like, 1 or 2 subjects.
Dragged it out,
right?
Yeah.
And I was the opposite. I was like, because I think I think
just wanted to punch through.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to finish this degree in 1 year faster than. Yeah, and I did, right? Like I still finished.
You can take extra units.
Yeah.
You?
So
you did like 5.
Yeah. At UTS you could.
You're a monster.
Right. At UNSW you couldn't, and that was one of my. I think one of the reasons why I decided. See, at UTS they just go, like when you ask somebody, they go, no, you can't, and then if you just do it, well, you're doing it, right? Like if there's a clash, that's on you.
Do you have to pay more money?
Yeah, like I smashed. Like I had all the hex debt. Yeah. I still finished the right amount of units.
Yeah.
Right? But I just finished because I was doing 5 subjects.
But usually, you're gathering a debt of, a couple of grand a semester. You'd be gathering a bit more.
Well, see, back then I think law was obviously the top band, and engineering was a band down or something. So I was getting smashed with the law subjects, and obviously get it smaller.
Wasn't engineering like really intense? Like the number of like face-to-face hours and like the kind of technical. Yeah. Examinations are much harder, right? Because I did business and it was pretty chill. Like, I think by the end of it, we used to have FaceTime of like 4 hours a week. And, you just had to do a couple of assignments.
UTS wasn't like that though. So UTS wasn't, we didn't have the compulsory hours type thing. I think I only had 1 or 2 subjects where I had to it was worth 10 marks or something out of your whole 100 to turn up to every class. And I think my attendance rate still wasn't there.
So that was back then. I mean, is it these days that it must be even more virtual?
It'd have to be, right? Because back then, it was only just starting that you could...
Like, we kind of had notes could be emailed to you, and I think maybe they started recording some of the lectures, but these days it must be
a lot more. Of it. Well, so learning is so open now, right? Like, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, because like in my career, like, I think doing the degrees definitely has helped, right? In the sense that you have a foundational level understanding of certain things. So like for me, it's like contract law, blah, 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 like that side of things. But did I need to necessarily do that to get to where I am? probably not. You know, there's a lot of other guys in my industry who are more successful than I am, who got there without any of the learning, right? Like, do you feel like for you in your capacity, how much do you reckon, what percentage would you apply to the benefit of going for that tertiary education?
Yeah, well, first of all, tertiary education was super fun for me.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I look back on those 5 years, I'm like, hell yeah, that was awesome.
You know, good time of life, right?
Yeah. You know, you're going out every night. You can sleep in.
Meet new people.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
In terms of how it impacted work, I guess the main thing would be that because I was in that degree that I was in, I got an opportunity to work at Macquarie, Macquarie Bank early on. And I think that was like really good corporate education or training kind of thing. Like it was good to be part of a big institution. And they basically beat you up, tell you, to work weekends, work late nights, write long emails and papers. So just build up a bit of discipline. I think that did have a fairly strong influence on me, like later in life, in the sense that, even working in a startup, which I did before Airtasker, I think they valued the fact that just those like little disciplines of being able to write really clearly and know how to set up a meeting and what the, just basics kind of thing. And then that sort of led me down a certain path. So I mean, to the extent that uni helped me get a good corporate kind of job straight out of uni, that was valuable. But actually the content, probably not massively.
Yeah. See, this is the thing, like, whenever Ange, my wife, she always jokes about this, how, because I would talk about TAFE education, because I've done a few different TAFE courses.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So obviously my apprenticeship was done through TAFE, right? And then the second thing that I also, if I go back a little bit, so when I finished, when I finished high school, my mum was working in real estate, so I went and did the real estate course and got my real estate license, but never really,
And you've done so many things, man. But it's quite amazing.
But it's one of those things that I think that once you get good at one thing, you can just translate it to the next. Like that's all I do. I just hop from one thing to the next. And then so like I it was just one of those things where I wasn't really trying, to do more things, but it was just they were in my field of interest, right? So obviously the apprenticeship thing was great. The learning in TAFE is very hands-on. So you can go and do an engineering degree, and I used to joke with one of my good mates about this, that you can do an engineering degree, but you still don't know how to use any of the tools to fix anything, right? You know the theory behind it, but then what's a 6 mil versus a 10 mil versus a torque.
I always think about Formula One.
Yeah.
There is kind of like two classes. There's like the engineers who design it all in theory, but they never touch any of the tools or touch the engines or whatever. And there's the mechanics who actually have to do the hard work to assemble all the cars and do all that. But
of course. So I felt like the learning that I got from like a TAFE style education was much more hands-on and directly relatable to what you're doing in the workplace. Whereas I think the benefits of tertiary education was probably more the friendships, the connections and that kind of learning.
Totally. I think my wife went and studied at in the US at Texas University. And like that US style undergraduate education, I think is even more distant from sort of practical education. So, I think, you might just do a degree in arts, majoring in, philosophy and, English literature or something. And I think that's definitely got merit, you know, like you just learn about life and stuff and, it makes you well-rounded. But, it's probably quite a bit of a privilege because I assume that if you need to make money, then you probably got to focus on something much more practical and, just get out there and, use that experience to make some money.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So okay, let's talk a little bit about your time at Macquarie. So when you got in, was that via like the traditional pathway? Was it like a graduate program?
So I definitely don't think I would have made it into Macquarie through the traditional pathway because I think, in terms of academics, it was kind of like get high distinctions, probably have done a lot of extracurricular stuff, like be head of the Commerce Society, be head of this and that, and I didn't do any of that stuff. So the way I got in, I was actually working at a hotel for this guy Paul Fishman, who went on to become a very famous, very successful hotelier. But I remember they put up an ad on the UNSW jobs site, and it was for an unpaid internship to work at a company where you got to work with Greg Norman and Steve Waugh and all of these like sports people. Okay. And so that was what actually attracted me to this job. I was like, oh, this sounds awesome.
You get to deal with celebrities.
Yeah. And so I signed up for it. And what it ended up being is in Macquarie's, they had a department back then called the Golf and Leisure Department, which sounded like the cushiest, awesomest job ever. But it was basically golf and leisure assets. Okay. And so they used to make golf courses, and they had a joint venture with Greg Norman to build a lot of golf courses. And then they're also doing some cricket stadiums with Steve Waugh. And they ended up doing a bunch of other really cool stuff like taxis and all this kind of thing. Okay. But basically they needed like an analyst to look at like research around hotels and leisure assets. And that kind of correlated with my degree. What you were doing. And so I did this unpaid internship for, it was only a day a week for a year. Okay. But at the end of that, it obviously put me in a good stead to get a grad job. Like, massively advantaged to get a grad job if you've done an internship.
Because they already knew you, right?
Yeah. And so, I basically started in a grad job, but then through various restructures and, promotions and stuff like that, ended up in, investment banking and corporate advisory. So, it was a really good way to get my foot in the door. And I think it would have been tremendously difficult to have gone in the front door of, the grad recruitment.
And where you ended up in Macquarie, like, is that something that where you wanted to go into investment banking and advisory, or?
So investment banking was awesome. So it was kind of like, hey, we have, a property developer and they have this problem where, they've built this big building and they're seeking development approval to build 10 more stories on top. But someone's got to take that risk finance on financing them before they get their DA. So, how can we structure something that makes sense for them? That was actually pretty interesting stuff. Corporate advisory was less so. That was more kind of like, Goodman, wants to sell a bunch of assets to somebody, so do this PowerPoint presentation on how they might do that. And it was kind of like, write 100-page decks. And you're like, what are the odds that we actually get this job? And it's kind of like probably 1 in 100. It's like, all right, And so but I still got to work on Saturday night to do this. Like, yes, it's kind of like that's pretty. I must say, in that industry, the fact that the odds of getting the job are so low, and yet the amount of work that goes in is so big. It's pretty disheartening. It'd be very hard to engage, keep people engaged on that kind of work.
So, because I want to talk about culture, when we talk about Airtasker, but like, so that would have been the culture there. People were expected to work those sorts of hours, like. Was there any sort of takeaway that when you were finished with Macquarie, where you were like, if I ever get into that sort of position, I don't want that to be the culture where I am? Or
Certainly, like at Airtasker, we don't, we wouldn't be as uncaring about people's personal lives. Like, so I remember like one thing at Macquarie was like, I remember telling my boss, I'm having a birthday party tomorrow, and he's like, yeah, cool, and then this job came up and it's like, we need to do this tomorrow. It's like, but I have this, I told you about the birthday party, which I'm actually hosting at my house. He's like, but I really need this job to be done. I was like, is this a conversation or is this like, and so I ended up working on my birthday and, that was a bit of a, when you're 24 or something, you're like, oh man. But on the flip side, it actually made me feel really important, I think. Okay. And it actually kind of made you feel meaningful. Like, it's important this job gets done. You're the only person who can do the job.
Isn't that a trap? Like the ego, right? Like you get sucked into this world where
maybe, but I think that, it's a question mark around whether it's a trap. You know, I think if you're doing meaningful work that you really do care about the results, then it's awesome. Like it's genuinely like, I feel really important. Like I feel really engaged and I'm contributing to something amazing. I mean, you could kind of call everything a trap, at some point. I think it's a trap if it's like, it turns out that you didn't really care about the outcomes and stuff like that. But no, I think, as a 24, 25-year-old, it's a good way to kind of build up a bit of purpose and meaning in your life. But I'd hope that we can be a bit more caring than that at Airtasker.
Okay. So after Macquarie, then?
After Macquarie, I went and joined a modeling agency called Chic Management.
Yep.
So a fashion modeling agency, not a financial modeling agency. And I guess, again, it was kind of, I don't know if this is a common theme, but the allure of working with celebrities and stuff. And so I basically used my PowerPoint skills to help them kind of put together like pitch decks for sponsorship of celebrities and models and stuff like that.
So trying to source sponsors for you.
Basically. I mean, some of them you needed to source. Others, it was more just negotiation. You know, like some people, some celebrities were a bit more like,
this from it.
Can I get $1 million out of this, or can I get $500,000? That sort of thing. That was amazing experience, and just so different to working in a bank, working in a fashion agency. I was pretty much the only guy in the office. It was all women working there, which was a really good experience. And then, the kinds of conversations would be around things like the shape of people's noses, and, whether their eyes were symmetrical and things like that, which I was like, oh my God, after coming from the political correctness of a bank, and then to have someone say,
it's that, blunt.
So that was pretty cool. And it was just, through, I guess, fortunate serendipity that I met the owner of the agency. And he was like, oh, it's strange. We've got an investment banker working in our agency. Like, I wouldn't expect to find that kind of person here. And so to a certain extent, he sort of took me under his wing. And he was an entrepreneur who'd done a lot of different things before and a successful lawyer, actually, and executive. And so he sort of introduced me to this world of, starting ventures and stuff like that. And that led me to an opportunity to work with him on a company called Amasim, which is like a mobile, low-cost mobile telco business. And that was my first taste of really starting a sizable company from scratch. And I got to see it, at the coalface, which was cool. And that was, just before Airtasker.
Okay. And so then when, we'll talk a little bit about the Airtasker. I'm trying to be mindful of time as well. So, the Airtasker journey people can obviously, read about. But I guess let's talk about Airtasker today. So I guess what do you see as being the current sort of challenges that you face in this business?
Yeah, so we've been on, a pretty wild journey, I guess. I guess I would break it up into a few bits. At the beginning, it was definitely like just get traction at any costs. And it was really about like raising money, because it's a business that needed upfront investment. So it doesn't sound like big money now, but we raised about $1.5 million, about $1.4 million very early on, and the amount of pressure that it felt like to kind of be burning $80,000 or $90,000 a month was just kind of mind-blowingly. It felt like incredibly high pressure. And it was pretty much just get runs on the board so you can raise more money so you can survive longer.
So then, did you have any? How did you like relieve the pressure? Is there a way that you sort of de-stressed yourself, or did you thrive on that environment? Did you just not think about it and just keep going? Or
to be honest, I'd say it was just a really hard time in life. Really, there's definitely moments where you just like and it sounds really bad, but there were just moments where like I really wish something big would happen in the world so I could just kind of opt out of this, out of this mess that I've gotten myself into. There were definitely days of that.
So you felt out of your depth.
Oh, totally. I actually have kind of coined this idea of like the 90-day in effect. Which is like, I think that when people are starting, before they start a startup, they're like, this is amazing. And if they can kind of push through the excitement, they can kind of push through the hard stuff, then they can launch a company. And then for like 90 days after you start a company, you're just on adrenaline. You're just like, oh, wow, like we've got to do this, do that. We're just here. And everything feels like a win. Because when you're starting from zero, you're like, oh, we got our first sign up to the website. Wow. We got our first 100 sign-ups. Fantastic. Everything feels like a win. But about 90 days in, about 3 months in, when you're living it every day, kind of dawns upon people. I think it's like, oh my God, like 500 sign-ups. That's just nothing. Like, how many would I actually need? I'm going to need 10 million sign-ups, to make this thing a viable business. And so just suddenly, I find it's about 90 days in, just hits people like, OMG, what am I doing? And
It's almost like a relationship after the honeymoon phase, right?
Much worse, much more harrowing, I think. But it's interesting because I kind of see people, 90 days, and you're like, I really know what they're going through. Because I remember just looking up at the ceiling and just kind of like, trying to sleep. And just kind of like, oh my God, the mountain of stuff that has to be done here. And it just becomes like a reality check. And so I guess, the first 3 years was quite harrowing. I guess 3 years in, we probably started making some good progress, but we were still burning a lot of money, losing a lot of money. And, it's 8 years in now. And pleased to say just a couple of months ago, we sort of hit that financial independence goal where we don't need external money anymore. And I must say that has been a completely different feeling now. I kind of describe it as it feels like a lion is chasing you when you're losing that much money, because you're basically like, at some point, if something doesn't change, I will get eaten. And now I kind of think of it as a little bit the opposite way, which is now we're the lion and we're sitting on top of the mountain kind of going, okay, well, what do we need to do next? And so, I can't stress enough to like entrepreneurs how good it feels from a psychological perspective to be, profitable or independent. And even though it might not make financial sense, but it would change your psychological profile. Like I think your outlook on the world is very different when you have a profitable business.
You got the monkey off your back, really.
Yeah, you got the monkey off your back, and you can just concentrate on, on
the next actions to take it to the next level.
Exactly.
So, okay, throughout that period, right, when you've gotten yourself into this mess, right, was there a part of you that was really focused on self-development to try and make sure that, you could cover these gaps, right? Like, because I guess, when you're going through that process, right, you're going to identify whether it's a technical flaw or a technical gap that you're missing, or whether it's a particular style that you have that you need to amend. And obviously you're going through changes as the company's growing and it's got more people. You've got to develop your own management style, right?
So definitely from a company perspective, like there was definitely like points at which we stopped and we had to make big changes to, survive each step. It very rarely happens as like a nice process. I think of like, let's just make this small adjustment and that small adjustment. It's usually like, oh my God, we don't have this. We better go do it. So for me, like some examples of that were HR, 50 people in, 50 employees in. It was like, we got no one in HR. Oh my God. Like this is the biggest issue ever. And then
did you ever lose people as a result of that?
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, startup life is hard. And I think everyone tries to show you this picture that it's glamorous. This nice little team and that team goes from nothing to, billionaires over 10 years or whatever. But the reality is, for a founder, it can be a very lonely journey. People come on the journey, people leave the journey. And so, definitely lost a bunch of people from not having HR in place. Another example would be when we realized like our engineering practice and our data science practice was just not up to scratch. Basically having to make like significant step changes to that. So it never kind of came as like a nice little, adjustment.
Because I'm going through that with my business at the moment. And the saying that I've got at the moment is sometimes when you've got to fix the foundation, you lose parts of the building, right? And, you can leave the building there and just do nothing and try not to fix these things. But if the foundation's effed, it's going to fall down at some point, right? So you might as well take the pain on board and take the necessary means. If it's fixing a foundational problem, you got to do it, right?
Definitely. And I think you can always underestimate how long it's going to take for those foundations to get set. So for us, like we changed our leadership in engineering 2 years ago. Probably took a good 9 months to have any kind of real meaningful impact. And that's 2 years ago now. And now I would say we have like a world-class engineering practice, but it was 2 years to kind of get through that change. And I guess one thing that is good, I think, as an entrepreneur is to have very, not to think too far into the future, because actually I think that if you think, it's good to have a bit of naivety. Because I think if you started at the beginning of changing your engineering leadership and your mindset was like, how long is this going to take to fix?
Yep.
And you thought about it like 2 years, you'd be like, oh man, I don't want to do this. But if you kind of just take it step by step by step, it's not too bad.
And was there ever a time when you made a decision and then you've gone, I immediately regret my decision?
All the time. No, I mean, the main thing I think in leadership, what I've kind of figured out in terms of that self-development question is the most important thing I think in leadership is to be able to recognize your own weaknesses and introspect on your own mistakes and then be quite vulnerable with them, you know, tell people about them. I find that where friction comes up and frustration comes up in your life is when you kind of know deep in your heart you've made a mistake, but you can't really talk about it or, you know, you haven't set up people around you to be able to talk about things. Whereas I think if you look at those like profoundly, you know, strong leaders, they're all people who could say, yep, screwed up. We're going to change it tomorrow and we're going to do it again. And I think that nobody minds when you screw up. You know, obviously if you screw up enough, then it's like, oh, you shouldn't do this job anymore. Right? But yeah, I think the best leaders are people who can just recognize that and deal with it.
Yep. Okay. And then, you know, from like where you are now, like, do you see that because you're in a different space now, like you've got the monkey off your back, is growth, you know, going to be more, I guess, linear, or is it what? Like, how do you sort of build upon that? Are you looking to chunk different things in to then, you know, provide a higher growth line of growth, or what's?
Yes, I mean, we're in an internet business. We're in that fortunate position where, you know, I guess we have a high fixed cost base, you know, pretty hefty engineering, data science, product management bill in terms of headcount and costs and stuff like that. But our top line is it's genuinely like an e-commerce internet business. And so there's very high margins. So from here on in, we're definitely looking to really get the growth going. And we've been pretty successful doing that over the last 8 years, but there's always pressure to keep it going. I guess what I've realized is, you know, if you look at any of these successful companies, it's not just one big growth curve. It's actually just the summation of a lot of smaller S curves. You know,
summation of aggregate wins.
Yeah, exactly. And so basically, the vast majority of our team at Airtasker are looking for the next big S curves of growth. So we kind of got a couple of streams going on at the moment. One is international expansion. So we're in the UK and in Ireland and growing marketplaces there. The second is we're iterating on the core product business model. So initially, we just had one kind of model, which was, you know, you post a task, you get quotes, you pick someone, and we're now releasing things like instant booking and subscription models.
So what's that, what does that mean? So instant book.
So one of the things that we realized is that people really want to have, for certain verticals, people would rather have upfront pricing and not have to choose a person and be able to get something booked like instantly.
Straight away. Okay, so it's just making the supply chain one step simpler, right?
Yeah, exactly. So rather than you describe what you want, they have to reply back, you have to choose someone, what we've done is we've basically standardized certain services. We've said, hey, lots of people want their 2-bedroom apartment cleaned. And judging from what we've spoken to the to all the cleaners, and they would charge around about $140 for that. So therefore, we can say now you can come to our site and you can know that you can get a cleaner for $140.
You don't have to negotiate.
You have to negotiate, and don't have to think about it, and we just take the hassle out of that.
What are your thoughts on negotiation in today's transactional world? Like, do you think it's a necessary ideal, or is it outdated now?
So it's really interesting because I think that one of the really powerful things about negotiation from the Airtasker platform perspective is that it allows for this long tail of jobs which isn't standardized. So if you think about, I really need a specialist kung fu teacher to teach me on a Tuesday at 10 p.m. at night for 3 hours every night. You can't standardize that. And if you tried to standardize that, you'd put way too much friction in it. And, you know, it'd be like, how many people want this? I don't know, 1. How many people are willing to do this? Oh, there's maybe 3 people in the country that want to do this. It's not worth standardizing. Or it wouldn't be efficient to standardize it. So in that case, you want to have negotiation because you want to be able to allow that thing to happen. And then you want one of those 3 Kung Fu teachers to go, yep, I can do that, but it's going to cost you 400. The other person can,
Yeah, I find that really, that's a really interesting point you make, because a lot of the times when people think about negotiation, they think about things getting cheaper, right? But you're actually talking about it from the opposite end of tailoring a service and making it more bespoke.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's a really common misunderstanding about the Airtasker platform that people think that Airtasker is about cheaper labor. It's actually like our mission here is to empower people to realize the value of their skills.
Yeah.
It's an acknowledgement that everyone's got unique skills, and we want to find a way for you to be able to like make money out of that, to realize your potential. And so, yeah, actually like very like on Airtasker, when you post up a job, on average, the price that ends up being agreed is about 10 or 15% higher than what you've originally budgeted.
Really?
Because people are able to come on and say, yeah, I can do this for you, but I could do it even better than what you said. Or I can do it for you like right now. I'll be there in 5 minutes to do it, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I definitely don't look at that from a pessimistic level.
And actually, but I think it's just the connotation of the word negotiation, right? So one of the things that I always focus on when I'm sales training is that, as an example, the word contract, right? So a lot of people, when they hear the word contract, they shit themselves because they think a contract by nature of it is binding, right? And people don't want to feel locked in. And that's the sort of mentality that people have over the word contract. But if we say it's an agreement, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but straight away, we're signing an agreement.
Yeah, contract is a bit unfriendly compared to agreement, right?
Yeah. So I just you made. I really like to always focus on language, and you make me want to think about what is a better word for negotiation, which reframes the context of how I guess the conversation.
Yeah, because it's really interesting. But I would say like you're in the car industry, and I guess mostly it's standardized units. And so when you're talking about negotiation, it's probably mostly about the price, right? Exactly. It's like the car is a red, Camry, or it's a red, 3 Series or whatever. And so negotiation is all about price. But if you actually imagine a world where you were tailor making vehicles, which could, be a custom made 3-seat helicopter, or it could be a 2-seater plane, or it could be a 25-seater bus, actually, in that instance, negotiation would be more like, well, what's the potential? Like, what could we do here? Yeah. Could we make a 50-seater bus? Could I get air conditioning in it? All these things. And then it's the opposite of price. It's actually like, yep, I'm the only guy who can build you a 3-seater helicopter. So I'm going to charge you what I think is, I'm going to make money out of my ability to do this.
To do that. All right. Well, I'm very mindful of time because I know you got to go, but I think we got to do this again.
Yeah, we do. It's fun. I love podcasting's so awesome.
Well, there's like normally my episodes are around a couple of hours, so you cut me an hour short, but that's all right.
A couple of hours? You don't want to hear me for a couple of hours,
Of course we do. So anyway, if people want to find you, where would they find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, so linkedin.com/TimJFung. And otherwise go to www.airtasker.com and post a task and get some stuff done.
Cool. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, mate.
We'll do it again.
Thanks, Johnny.
Bye.